Welcome back, Generals, to another Let's Fix Generals 0 Hour to make the best game ever. Okay. So last session we did drop off here with this buffer, file IO buffer. Okay, what do? We want to allocate our own buffer. Okay, so if the buffer size is 0, we don't set a buffer. If we use it, otherwise we check if how about we say else? How about we say int mode, int buffer mode, say else buffer mode text, then we take this line buff, otherwise this buff. And then we need to say size t, const size t buffer size. How about we put that into a scope? Then we name this mode and the size. And size, we say if buffer size smaller than this, then will be buff size, otherwise buffer size. And then we allocate our buffer buff, and then we do this here message, call this LocalFile and buff. Is that a good name for that? I don't know. And buff. Wait, how do we write this bullshit? Message new road buffer, local file, texture class. I guess that's fine, yeah. Message new. And that is char size. Mode. Okay. we say here, uses line buffering. Uses full buffering. Uses default size. Uses custom size. Okay. Okay, and then we have our own buffer, and when we close a file, we delete the buffer. Yeah. And that should cover everything. The close is always called on destructor, right? This close is delete on close, so should delete. Convert to RAM file, this close. Error. Then false. Okay, did we miss anything, or does this look good? We have a breakpoint. Let's see. Okay, so the mode will be 0, which is this one. Yeah. And the size will be 512. Then we will allocate our own buffer. The only problem here is that now we allocate before we actually use the file, but I mean, we expect that we use a file. If we open a file, we expect that we use it, right? Unless we just open it to test if it exists, right? Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't maybe we shouldn't allocate our own buffer. The disadvantage is we create the buffer right when we open the file and not on first use. So if we would just open a file to tell its size, for example, we would unnecessarily allocate this buffer, right? Yeah. Maybe we should not use this buffer, but just use the default buffer then, yeah. 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 Yeah, the comments here. Buffer is expected to initialize. Is expected to lazy initialize on first read or write. Lazy, let's say allocate later. Okay. I think that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Good. So the game works by the looks of it. Yeah. We can load a match. Okay. Exit. Save replay. Test. Okay. 1,500 memory leaks? What the hell? Where did these come from? Ignore. What was leaking there? Jesus Christ. 1,500. We only loaded into one level. With an AI though. Generals, English, debug. A lot of meshes. Oof. Can we also see how much megabyte this is? Or kilobytes? There's a lot of small ones here. 16 bytes, that's not much. 32, 64. It's ordered by size? No. Doesn't seem to be too much. Yeah. Maybe a few megabytes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really, it's not really telling where this is coming from, right? I mean, these seem to be quite large here, 5,000 kilobytes, 5,000 bytes, 5 kilobytes. Oh, that's a respectable size. Yeah. Good. Anyway, I think this looks fine. Maybe we should test it. How about let me put a breakpoint in here and see where it's called the first time. Open archive, open file. Oh, okay, for a big file. Does the archive file, does that need a buffer then? FP, read buffer. 4, read the big at the beginning. Yeah, and then what? FP. Okay, there also reads small chunks here, look at that. Okay, so this actually also already benefits from buffer, yeah, because it does do a lot of small reads here. See here, so each of these actually are one file access. Here for 4 bytes, here another for 4 bytes, here one for 1 byte. Yeah, and that's in a loop. Here's a loop. Here's a loop. So, whew. Okay, that's already expensive. Yeah. It was expensive. Now it's cheaper. Yeah. Okay, so a buffer absolutely makes sense here. So let's say we want to raise it for testing. Put it to 1024. Yeah. Just to see if we get that value. Nothing is wrong. So the buffer size is 1024. Okay, cool. And then we go down here. And now the size is 1024. Yeah. Cool. That works. Okay, that's really nice. Yeah. Maybe I can append this information. Game text str files greatly benefit from the file buffer, file IO buffer. It's an open archive file does as well with a small, with many small reads. Okay, good. Then we can take this guy and take this guy and this guy. Then we take I think we can make this a separate change here. How does it know about file in here? Ah, it's forward declared. I see. I go to file. Asset. This one we can remove. Okay, open a file for access. Negative buffer size opens with the default buffer size. Negative buffer size opens with the default buffer size. So the problem is many places have this comment, right? Yeah. Maybe we say, maybe we shorten this with opens open a file for access uses uses say a full uses full buffering with default size. Uses default size full buffering by default. Uses no, that's not good because the buffering depends on this one. The mode depends on that. The size uses default size. Uses default size buffering. Default. Uses default. Let's say uses system default buffer size. Let's say uses system buffer size by default. Can't do that. And then I put it also back here again. Yeah. Uses system buffer size by default. Okay. Oops. System buffer size. open. Maybe we move this back then. How it was. Open. There was no space here. Oops. Okay, I think that looks good. There's a typo here, occurred. Good. Wait, what is this? Ah, right. Good. This is it's looking good to me. Yeah. We have a lot of buffer size. Then let me Let me create a new commit. So that will be core core implement implement custom buffer custom buffer overrides implement custom buffer option custom buffer options in LocalFile open. Implement custom buffer options for LocalFile open. Okay. Then let me stash the other change that we have here right now. I would like to go back to this guy here, and I would like to append local file. I would like here in this change already use the bool and move create one up. Then maybe we move this here. Read writes. Minor refactor. Okay, let me push that. Okay, and then we rebase. Then we remove that. Okay. Text. The diff is really quite ugly now. Oof. Because we changed the indentation here. That's much better. If we remove this again, but then we have this here. Maybe we call it buff mode and buff size. Now the diff is a bit cleaner. Can do that. Maybe what we should also do to make the diff even cleaner, in this change, we remove this bullshit here. Remove obsolete comments. And we push that. Then we rebase again. Which brings us a conflict. Open. Okay, cool. Then I will push that. So this will be merged after this. Merge after that, yeah. Fix and enable buffered I/O. Implement custom buffer options. Custom buffer options for local file open. This change is a follow-up for that and implements a new argument for local file open to specify a buffer size depending on text and binary flags. A buffer mode is picked. Specify a default or custom buffer size. What we could also do is now that I think about it, instead of having a -1, we could also default to buffs, right? Maybe inside file, we could say enum buffer size buff sys. Yeah. Could do that. Yeah. Ugh. Then we say here buffer size. Then we also don't need this comment here. I'm surprised that this one didn't need the because it's not declared. Okay, it's not forward declared. Okay, let me search for buffer size equals -1. Yeah. Local file system for type devs. What does file include? File.h. File.h doesn't include much. Oh, it's pretty naked. Maybe here we can say include common file.h, and then here we can use file none, and here we can use file buffer size. Here as well. File none. File buffer size. also say buffer size. Then we remove this here. Then here we use fire, none. Then we can also remove the forward declaration. File, buffer size. Here we can also remove it. Okay, let me search for this guy here. Okay. I think that makes a bit more sense. Yeah. And then we say here. So now we no longer have a negative size. Now we could pass a negative size, buff size. It actually expects a size t as a buffer size. Look at that. Then how about the buffer size, int buffer size? Let's search for all occurrences. There are now a few of them. Let's search and replace int buffer size to size t buffer size. Okay, is that all? Find all, yeah. Okay, now the buffer size can no longer be negative, which I think makes it a bit clearer what is going on. LocalFile, no longer a magic number that needs a comment to explain, so that's good. And then we no longer need this condition here. Basically, we just pass buffer size here now. And that's it. No longer need this. Okay, that's great. Yeah, it looks good to me. Mhm. 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 Good. Then let's see if that compiles. Oh, I see a lot of errors here. That's why. That explains it. Mhm. Error. Mhm. Protected. Expected an identifier. What? Okay, what is the error? File system open file. What's wrong with it? I don't know. Huh? Okay, that is unexpected. File system open file. Unresolved external symbol. Why? File system open file. I have the suspicion it has something to do with us adding this file here. This include, I mean. Not sure. What you can do is you can fix alphabetical order. Why is this complaining? I don't know. Open file. Open file. Open file. Somehow is complaining. How about we do a full rebuild? Maybe that's a problem. Should I take it to private message? Okay, that has compiled now, so it was just some building error because of stale code. Okay, that's fine. Cool. Then I think that's better because now our buffer size actually cannot be negative and there's no magical behavior. Simply, we just default it to some reasonable, to the standard buffer size, essentially. Yeah. And when that is done, then this default behavior. Maybe instead of buff mode, we say buffer mode. Here, buffer mode. There we go. Okay, let's see if that looks good. Yep. Yep. Streaming archive file. It really doesn't need it. Let me see. Streaming archive file. So that one doesn't have it in its constructor, but it's a virtual function. Oh. Oh. Hold on. I think we are breaking something here. Uh-oh. Yeah, I think we are... This is not correct. Look at that. File system. Right. This one also needs that. Streaming archive file. Open. File. Return. What? What is this function here? What is this? Okay, that's weird. Do we have anything else inheriting from raw? No. Do we have anything else inheriting here? Local file. And this one. Streaming. Okay. Let me see the streaming archive file. No, streaming. Wasn't there some... Who's using streaming archive file? What is... Who's creating that? Big file. Streaming. RAM file. Ah. Hey, where are we? Why is it not going back to where I was before? What is this? Jesus Christ. Good. I'm a bit confused right now. So here, oh boy. That's also archive file. Oof. 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 Does the archive file need... Okay, actually, it looks like I need to think this through a little bit more. Oof. So it default creates a RAM file. It doesn't use open. It calls open from archive. What is this there? Open from archive. How? Ah, it calls file open. Star. Data. I think here we... I think here we don't need a buffer. say const expr const buffer size equals 0. I don't know why it made it large now. Size t. Because essentially we just read it in once. But then I wonder, like, if we have open file, and here we would do the same, right? Access. Yeah. Ah. Huh. I'm confused about this here. Like, what happens? How does it open the file? I'm not sure that makes sense. Because to me, it looks like this function, it won't open anything. It just claims it's open. I'm confused. Open from archive. So where's this called from? Oh boy. How is this open? I don't understand. When we create this here, it's not open anywhere. Let me put a breakpoint in here and here. This makes sense. Here it opens the file, and then here it reads it. And it reads the whole thing at once, which actually means that the buffer size here, we can actually make it 0. So we could say a buffer size equals 0. Needs no buffer. It's not buffer. Okay, let me put some breakpoints in here. I'm a bit confused about this. Yeah. Okay, so what have we changed now? Just this, okay. Open from archive. Okay, so buffer size, open from archive, open file. So right now we have a RAM file. It has no data, it has nothing, no file, it is not open, nothing. Aha, we have an M file here. What is this? Aha. Aha, we already have an open file here. Aha. 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 I see. And so we just fake open. We fake our open status. Yeah. Okay. Now we are open. Now we allocate data. I see. I see. I see. So the RAM file basically, it is opening, it is creating file data from an existing other file that is already open with another handle. Yeah. Okay. But in there, there's no, like, we don't care. We can remove this. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. And here, this also, this also doesn't matter. Then the question is now, what do we do here though? RAM file open. Is this ever called? Okay, so it's never called. Let's load into a map. Okay, so if this is not called, I mean, if we open a file here, and then afterwards we close it, and this open means we just read it. We read this whole thing in one go. That means we don't need a buffer, so we can set, yeah. Let's say a RAM file needs no buffer because it is read in one go. Needs no file buffer because it is read in one go. Okay. Then actually in the declaration of this, we can also set this to 0, but we have to specify this because it is a virtual function. It needs to be overridden, right? Yeah. Okay, let me go back to streaming file because there we also put it. Streaming archive file, yeah. So this one is inheriting from RAM file. And it also has a buffer size. Let's go in there. So this one is calling file system open file. Huh. Let's put a breakpoint in here. Okay, it's not calling. Jesus Christ. Okay. Okay. Okay, so it's not calling this thing, so we don't know. But okay, it's calling it to file system open file. Which will open with local file system, so and the archive file system. Open file, archive file, open file. Archive file. It's pure virtual. Okay, who is inheriting this guy? Public. Open. So this one is doing the streaming archive file or the RAM file. So the RAM file doesn't need anything. This one, open from archive, RAM file. Streaming archive file is also a RAM file. Open. Yeah. Open buffer size. Okay, and here we have a set a buffer size. But this calls open. Okay, that's weird. Or is it not? So this function or this function. It's streaming archive file. This one also does everything in one go. Okay. Here we should probably say this function opens a file and opens a this function opens a using the file system. Yeah, so considering that this, so this guy is never called, so it can't really test it, but it calls in here and it calls in the local file system, so the buffer would make sense here. Otherwise it calls in here and here it doesn't need the buffer, that's fine. And so it's only a RAM file and open from archive here. Yeah. Doesn't need the buffer. Yeah. I guess that's fine. Maybe. Open file, what does this say? Open file, open from archive, yeah. Oh, hold on. There's another down here. Never mind. Never mind. We do actually need to hand over the buffer size here as well, yeah. Otherwise, it's just using a default buffer size here, which is not the end of the world, but it looks like open file. Let me search for this open file thingy. It's quite a lot. Ugh. The archive file system, open file. Oops. Oh, so public archive file. So this guy can open file. No? Huh. There we go. Yeah, so this guy can open file with a local file system. That means we need to make it possible. Yeah. Okay. Good. Then let's go to archive file. And we pass here size team, buffer size. We do include common file. Oh, that's the wrong function, isn't it? It's supposed to be here. Buffer size equals buffer size file. Okay, then we put it here. Open the specified file within the big file. Whoever is opening this file wants write access, so copy the file to the local disk and return that file pointer. Copy data to, hold on. No. I think on second thoughts, let's revert all this bullshit. So on second thought, it just opens a file to copy the data to the file, to just read it, write it, copy data, write, yeah, the whole thing in one go. Okay, that means we can just pass 0 buffer size here. Same here. Why is it jumping there? What? Oh boy. Same here. Maybe we should have a const expa const size t and buffer size. Maybe we just say this const expa. Yeah, I think that works. Yeah. So streaming archive file, let's go into that again. So here we do pass a buffer size. Okay, that's fair. Buffer. But then, but now looking at this, now we just use it. No. Streaming archive. Oh, from archive. Is there ever a case where we open a streaming archive file and it wants to use a buffer? That I don't see yet. The streaming archive file, it is only used. It's only used here. This is the only place where it's created. Yeah. If we use string. And it's only used with this call in here. Open from archive. But what is the difference between this and this? I don't know. Streaming archive file. Oh boy. Probably fine. Yeah. 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 We're not really using. We're not really using this open call here, right? Like this is never used. Yeah. Okay, I guess it's fine. Yeah. Okay, so RAM file puts it at 0. Okay. Let me see if there are other places that document this like this. Yeah, there is. Maybe we replace it with a new one. There was a file using open or f open call. Open f open calls. This function opens a file using the standard C open or F open call. Access flags are mapped to the appropriate open. Let's just call it to the appropriate flags. It turns true if file was opened successfully. Yeah, it feels like I can polish here forever. Yeah, I just hope. Hold on, regarding a file. It would have been useful if we had override keywords. Yeah, but adding this now. I hope I didn't miss any overrides. Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to make mistakes here. Buffer size. Streaming archive. Yeah. Okay. I will. I mean, everything somehow goes to local file except for the archive file, right? Okay, let's push it again. It's easy to make mistakes here, I think. Okay, this changes the follow-up for that and implements a new argument. LocalFile to specify default or custom buffer size, depending on. How about we say more generally file open? Implement custom buffer options for file open. Implements a new argument for file open all to specify a default and friends to specify a default or custom buffer size. Depending on text and binary flags, a buffer mode is picked. By default, the default system buffer size is used. 512 on Windows. Buffsys, aka 512 on Windows. Buffer size can be 0 for no buffer. RAM file uses no buffer by default. Always uses no buffer. Okay, so this is essentially, it is minor. I would say it's fundamentally a refactor. It does have some, it doesn't change behavior, but it changes allocation pattern. For RAM file at least. Before it would allocate a buffer and now it doesn't anymore. It's enhancement. Yeah. Fundamentally, say functionality wise, nothing changes. RAM file no longer. Nothing really changes. This changes follow-up for that and implements a new argument for file home and friends to specify a default or custom buffer size depending on text. Buffer mode is picked by default. The default system buffer size is used. Buffer size can be 0 for no buffer. RAM file home always uses no buffer. Custom buffer option. Okay. Okay, and then after that, we still have the other one. Create new branch. So 3. Stash pop. Let's test this. LocalFile close. I think fundamentally nothing really changes because it would have closed the file on destruction and it would always destroy at some point. It would destroy on close, right? It's kind of weird. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Let's see what this says. Yeah, so it will close the file here. Yeah. And then it will call in here, and then it will delete on close. I don't understand, why is there an option to not delete on close? Because you maybe want to have 2 pointers pointing to a file and you want to close it, but then not delete the other dangling reference. Have another dangling reference to that now deleted object. But you want to say, you can test if it's closed now or not. Yeah, so it allows you to build a reference counted file essentially and have it close at some point. Yeah, okay. Actually, this makes sense. Delete on close, yeah. Okay, now it would delete. So is there ever any place where delete on close is set to false? It is false by default. Is there any place where delete on close is not called? So it is called here, delete on close. I'm surprised that it's only called at 2 places essentially, in big file and a local file system. That's interesting. Huh. Guess it's fine. Okay, but anyway, it's a different story. Yeah, it should close the file when we close it. Yeah, or not. Is there any reason why it would not want to close it here? And in the destructor instead. If we go to LocalFile, there is a mopen test here. Yeah, and it is closed here. Okay. So there are tests in place for mopen, not everywhere though. This would crash. This would crash here. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Depends if this crashes. If you pass a null, could crash, right? Yeah. Okay, but you can... Yeah, okay, but that's probably a different issue. Actually, I mean, there is a chance that if someone was misusing is there anyone who is allocating local file? No? No one? How's local file created? Local file system. Local file. Huh? Local file. Okay, we insert it to a local file system. Yeah, so here we have an allocation, new instance. Local file. Let's see. I hope that there are no implications. I guess we'll figure out if we run the game and it crashes, then yeah, we'll figure it out. I have an idea. How about we set a breakpoint here with condition delete on close is false. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's see if that is ever hit. Oh, it is hit. Aha. How does that happen? Let's see. Oh, local file. Open. Aha, it happens here because this one how about we set delete on close and then we can remove this and we just say file null and then we remove all the other shit here. That's simpler, right? Let's test that. Hold on, this is wrong. This is wrong. We need to call file close. There we go. And then it deletes here, and then so we set it null. Let me double check that. Put a breakpoint here. Delete on close. It only sets this flag, right? Yeah. Yeah. Is it ever overridden? Delete on close? No. No, it just does that bullshit. Okay, so delete on close. Oh, exception. Oof. Oof. Dead beef. Oh. Huh. Okay. Right. Right. It can't. So this fails. Actually, I don't understand. Let me see why this happens. Okay, so it goes in here and blah blah. Okay, and it succeeds. Yeah. Okay, and if it fails, then file is dead beef, but file is okay. No? Oh, when there is an error, it closes. Huh. That's weird, isn't it? If it fails, it closes. And then it deletes itself. Oof. Oof. That's kind of shady, isn't it? Oh boy. That if you try to open it, that it can't close. Read entire and close. Close. Local file, close. It will close here. Yeah. So on open, if there is an error, it will close. How does that make sense? That's oh, this hurts. It's really unpleasant because you have the power to say, if I close a file, it should be deleted. But then inside some of these functions, it calls close. And so it deletes itself, but it's not really visible to the outside which call would delete this function. You don't necessarily expect that if you call in one of these functions, it will close it and then delete it. Oh, that is unpleasant. Oof. Okay, that's fair. It says read entire and close. Okay, fair enough. It says close here. Good. Easy. Destructor close, also fine. No problem. I think here we should probably set delete on close to false, just in case. Just in case, yeah. What does RAM file do? RAM file. It also calls file close. That's weird. Or is it not? Hold on. Close. Close. RAM file close. It does the same. You can simplify this. Yeah. Or can we not? I think we can. Yeah. Yeah, and then here we can simplify this to just calling close. And then in here we also set delete on close to false, just in case. Then we call check a public RAM file. That also calls close, file close. I think we should call close. Let me see if there are other places that call file close. I think we got all the places now. Here we can also say delete on close, false. Ah, no, that's the wrong location. Here, delete on close. I may put a breakpoint here. Oh boy. Okay. So I set this to false just to avoid a scenario where it would try to delete the instance, which shouldn't happen. Like if we would delete local file here by calling the destructor, it should just close it, but not delete on close, because it's already destructing and afterwards deleted. So yeah. What about the archive file then? Close. Okay, that's different. Okay, so we did have a crash, right? Here. So it's already deleted. We open it, and on open, it will delete it. Yeah. How do we do that? What else closes it here? Close closes, yeah. Convert to RAM file. That also closes it, which I think is also fine, because it gives us a new pointer. Convert to RAM file. Okay, this is borderline, but it probably meets expectation. So I guess this is fine for now. But I would say on open, if open fails, it closes and deletes the thing. It's unexpected, because you would think that, okay, maybe you're allowed to call it a second time open, right? So let's say it fails for one file, and then you use the same pointer to try open another file, right? And you should explicitly call close. Yeah. Error close. Does the same happen on the other files, like RAM file open? What does this do on error? Well, it closes the file anyway here. Open file. File now. Open file. Yeah. Okay, but that's different. This is calling this. Yeah. Okay, then how about we say delete or close? How about instead of closing, we just return false? Return false here. I see. I think the reason it's done because it can be opened and then there can be an error afterwards. Right, so you do this here, and there can be an error. Oof. I think that's why there's this close. Right. I need to think about it a bit more next session. Yeah, it's quite delicate. I don't want to break anything. Yeah. Should we maybe merge some of the other changes? Let's see. I think we still have some approved reviews. We can probably merge these two here. Fix China hackers unnecessarily packing and unpacking when ordered to hack while already hacking. Yeah. Fix USA supply drop zone event triggering. Okay, let's merge these. Should be good. Fix China hackers unnecessarily packing and unpacking when ordered to hack while already hacking. Okay. There we go. And this one. Fix USA supply drop zone event triggering instantly when previously subdued. When I think this can be simplified a bit more. Fix USA supply drop zone. Drop zone. Fix instant money drop on USA supply drop zone construction completion when subdued while under construction. Fix instant money drop on USA supply drop zone construction completion when subdued while under construction. When subdued. Fix instant money drop. Fix instant money drop on USA drop zone construction completion when subdued while under construction. Can we maybe write this here shorter? Construction completion. Fix instant money drop. Fix instant money drop on USA supply drop zone build. Supply drop zone build. Fix instant money drop. We say just fix money drop. Fix money drop on USA. Fix instant. Fix instant money drop in USA drop zone. USA supply drop zone. Completion. Maybe just say completion. Fix instant money drop on USA supply drop zone completion when subdued while under construction. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's quite long though, isn't it? What was it before? Fix USA supply drop zone event triggering instantly when previously subdued while under construction. Fix instant money drop on supply drop zone completion when subdued while under construction. Both read fine. They're about the same length. Fix instant money drop on drop zone completion when subdued while under construction. I think it's fine. I would assume that 90% of players understand this. Yeah, and the rest are monkeys that don't understand. Yeah. Okay. It says minor. It says minor here. I would actually say this is... typically I would say this is a major issue, but in this case I would probably say it's a critical issue because this bug abuse will cause flaming and disconnecting and rage quitting and fighting in games and in lobbies. So it's major bug fix. I would say it's critical bug. What was this? This was classified as minor. Who did that? He did that. Why is this minor? Should have been critical, huh? Yes, somehow the people just assigned minor to this thing. Here it's a design somehow. Controversial exploit. Okay, it's classified as critical. Interesting. Yeah. Good. Then I hope I didn't make a mistake when merging. That looks okay. Good. Then, yeah, next session we continue here with the file open here. I need to think about this a bit more. It's quite finicky. So if you set delete on close before you open a file and it fails, then it will already be closed. So actually, hold on. If we go here, doesn't this then just mean we just remove this? Because it's already deleted here. right? If it doesn't open, it will close. But not really though, right? Because if it returns, the problem is it has an asymmetric result. Like if it returns false here, it doesn't delete itself. But if it would reach down here, return false, then it would have deleted itself here. So maybe what we need to do is that we say let's check it tomorrow again. Next session. Yeah. I'm not a fan of this close in this open function. Yeah. It's quite tricky. Yeah. Okay. But we will figure it out. Good. Then, yeah, I will end it here. Let's save the current state. Then, for request, did we assign? No, we did not. Let's assign OmniBlade here. Good. Then, yeah, I will end it here. I wish you a great day or night. Until next time. Goodbye.